Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, comrades and friends, my name is Dr. Ian Phillips, and there are moments in American politics when the Constitution, that old, poorly neglected document that we no longer cherish, is dragged out of the attic, dusted off, and briefly treated as though it still has something to say. And this is one of those moments. The United States Senate has now voted 50-48 to end the U.S. military campaign against Iran and block President Trump's authority to continue the war without congressional approval. And again, this is from the More Perfect Union. And because the House already passed its version, both chambers of Congress now have done something extraordinary. Right? They have looked at an American war and said, excuse me, right? Who authorized this war? And they're actually doing so in the face of all the corruptness that we have going on in this country. I mean, when was the last time both parties agreed we should stop bombing little children and maybe spend money at home, or at least, at least give some to billionaires at home, as opposed to, giving some to billionaires abroad, or people who are more focused abroad, I should say, at least on foreign causes. So with that said, this is extraordinary, but this should be the baseline. Right? And it should be the civic equivalent of checking whether the stove is on before leaving the house. But in modern America, Congress, asserting its own war powers, is treated like a constitutional solar eclipse. Everyone gathers around, puts on special glasses, and says, my God, I didn't know it could still do that, right? Because for decades now, presidents of both parties have treated war-making powers as if they were something executive subscription service, right? I mean, you can do whatever you wish. Bomb here, done. Drone there, done. I mean, for God's sake, they call people the drone strikers in chief. I mean, if that doesn't tell you how bad things are, then I don't know what does. Now, if you can just deploy troops wherever you want, right? Call it, whatever, masquerade, using some crazy language like a limited strike, or this is a policing action, or you know what my favorite one is? Counterterrorism, right? Or deterrence, right? It's ridiculous, but this is what they've been doing. This is how they're getting away with it. And Congress, with the courage of a damp cocktail napkin, is often allowed this to happen, and members of Congress love to posture about war. We hate war. War is the worst thing in the world. Right? We're gonna take our little flag pins and put it on people's shirts. But at the end of the day, they always go on to support wars because that's where their donors are from, right? Follow the money, and when you do follow the money, that's what you tend to see year after year, right? Decade after decade, right? Century after century. It's not like, war is something that is going to go away necessarily. I'm sure we'll probably always have war till, maybe the end of time, or certainly probably within the next 100 years. But, with that said, we should be taking actions to try to mitigate some of these wars or hostile actions, because sometimes a war is a little bit more involved than just, sending troops somewhere, bombing some place. Sometimes it can be a little bit more along the lines of what China does, right? Get somebody in debt to you, and they become essentially your debt slaves for life. With that said, the president, they're going to be commanding the military here. And so one of the things that I find particularly troubling about this is the fact that this is going to be challenged in courts. Now, when you think about, the president, you say, okay, well, don't they have full authority over the military? And it's like, yes, they do. But in the same breath, they don't have the ability to just start wars whenever they want. So when something gets classified as a war, that means that they're no longer allowed to, continue that, that, I don't know what you should say, that excursion over in these foreign places, just like Iran. And so, the idea is that Trump would stop because Congress has said, look, you're not allowed to do this, buddy. But the problem is Trump's going to challenge this and say, well, look, this falls under my jurisdiction. I'm allowed to do whatever I want with respects to this. When in reality, he's not. But this will probably get challenged, go to court. It's going to take a very long time, most likely. And we're going to have all these different courts try to challenge this and probably get appealed and blah, 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 blah. It's ridiculous, right? But having said that, that's most likely what's going to happen now. The Constitution sometimes just doesn't matter, right? Things are going to be challenged, and sometimes, things should be challenged, right, to find out what's legal and what's illegal. But in the case of this, this is so clear cut to me. And you want to say, okay, well, maybe Trump has the authority to, command the military, but at the end of the day, Congress has to, pass all this funding, right? If we're going to be giving $300 billion to the citizens of Iran, that money has to come from somewhere, and it certainly is not coming from Donald Trump, because Donald Trump does not have the power of the purse, whereas the American people through Congress do have the power of the purse. So that's the distinction there. But it's a distinction that I think we're sort of losing sight of as time goes by, and maybe because this was so unpopular, people are trying to jump on this and pounce and say, wait a minute, like, yeah, like, I might like war, bro, but this is kind of crazy, dude, which is why Donald Trump has been ranked recently by, I believe it was 40 or 50 presidential historians as the worst president of all time. Right? Within his second term, this is the worst presidential term of all time. And he's at the lowest popularity, I believe, of any president in U.S. history right now for doing what he's doing. I mean, I don't know how on earth you can spend almost $100 billion, fighting a war in a foreign country. And then, you give up the concessions that were worse than the JCPOA, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or Obama's Iran deal, as they call it. And then on top of that, give them $300 billion, or at least agree to that. Oh, but wait, we can't agree to that. Why? Because our number one ally, Israel, decides that, they're just going to start bombing other countries as well, breaking the ceasefire agreements. It's ridiculous. It's insane. It's crazy. But if you say that, then somehow you're in the wrong, right? But if you say that, then somehow people go gunning for your head. And if you say that, the government's going to violate your rights. I mean, when was the last time the government, decided, hey, look, we're going to be on the side of the people, and we're not just going to be trying to, bully them into a corner. We're just going to ignore them. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's crazy. But that's the world that we live in, ladies and gentlemen. We have to speak out against this. Otherwise, this stuff is going to continue to happen. You have to vote in the right politicians who are anti-war. It's like a litmus test, right? If you believe sending our troops to foreign countries to die and spending billions and billions and billions of dollars is the right move, then if they believe that, then you probably shouldn't vote for them. I'm just saying, right? I mean, it's a wild, crazy thought. I know it's a crazy thought, but that's probably what you should do. You probably should try to avoid those people, right? I mean, it's wild to think of. I know, but you should probably try to avoid those people. And I would say that we're getting better at it over time, but we're really not getting better at it over time. I think it's actually gotten worse over the past decade now. Ever since, I've been following politics, it's definitely gotten worse. I remember I started following politics back in 2017. And, while things were bad, they weren't this bad. And I just only see things getting worse as time progresses. But hopefully, maybe people can wise up a little bit and we can start to spend some money domestically. I mean, for God's sake, right? I mean, we were talking about the New York passed free lunches for people in the K-12 system. I'm going to use this example all the time now because, shout out to Mamdani, man. I wish this guy could run for president. And people who hate on Mamdani just means that they don't know what the hell they're talking about when they say they hate Mamdani. First of all, he's not even a socialist. Sometimes people call themselves socialists. They're not even socialist, right? And I don't even know if he does call himself a socialist. But what I can tell you is he ain't a socialist like Bernie Sanders. Dude's capitalist as hell. The guy just wants some basic human rights for people in the country. I'm sorry, I do think that people should be allowed to have food, right? And so one of the things he did was provide K-12 lunches for the kids, right? And you're going to do that for free. And you say, okay, well, cool. That's great. That's going on in New York. I mean, of course, people are going to complain about it. I mean, God forbid we have children who have full bellies in the United States of America. But if you were to expand that policy, at the federal level and say, okay, well, the federal government's going to pay for, every child in the K-12 system to have lunch daily. You say, how expensive is that? It's like, $30 to $40 billion, right? It's like 0.4% of our budget, right? And it's like, I'm sorry. If I had a list of things that I could buy to fill up 100% and that was 0.4% of our budget, that's going to be on the top of my priority list, right? But if you say that, right, then somehow people look at you like you're insane. But if you want to double that amount and spend that bombing, children in Iran, then all of a sudden things are good for you. And that was in the face of every domestic intelligence, officer who came to him and said, look, they are not actually developing nuclear weapons. They don't have nuclear weapons. And that was in the face of every single international intelligence agency saying the exact same thing besides Israel. So it just shows you how absolutely corrupt these two countries are, the United States and Israel. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's insane. It's crazy. And if you want more proof of that, how about you look a few years ago when the United States and Israel were the only two countries on the planet in the United Nations who voted against food as a human right. I mean, if that doesn't tell you who's evil and who's on what side, then I don't know what does. And I'm not saying that other countries aren't evil. I mean, yes, there's lots of evil countries. Iran, horrible place. Afghanistan, horrible place. I mean, you just name it. I mean, there's South Sudan, horrible place. There's lots of places you don't necessarily want to be. There's lots of governments that you don't necessarily want to be a part of as well. Saudi Arabia. But at the end of the day, certain things are need to be protected in terms of our rights, and certain policies need to be passed, and it needs to be recognized when countries are doing the bad things, so that way we can vote out our politicians and get new ones who actually advocate on our behalf. And that's something I feel strongly on, and I feel as if you probably should too. And so with that said, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dr. Ian Phillips, and if you did enjoy the video, please be sure to hit that like and subscribe button for some more content, and we'll talk to you later. Peace.